notice requirements provided in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in the new schedule of meetings of the Spotswood Borough Council on December 27, 2019. The new schedule was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and sent. It was filed with the clerk of the Borough of Spotswood and posted in the municipal building located at 77 Summerhill Road, Spotswood, New Jersey.
Councilman Ritchie?
Here.
Councilman Rivera?
Here.
Councilman Malillo?
Here.
Councilman Scaluzzo? Council President Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Sealy?
Can I get the engineer's report?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Under the DOT project, I again enclosed the various roads that I requested funding for, with approximate costs next to them. There's also a separate sheet for some of the roads off of Eisenhower, so you had some further information on that. And as far as PSE&G goes, they are continuing their gas upgrade work. And I just put the cost in there, so if you do want to try and transfer any of this money or trade with the PSE&G to put money into Old Stage Road or paving there, that you could do that. If not, and you want to approach it differently, well, that would be fine too. Cottage Streets, the contractor is still shut down for the winter, though he is going to get the tree contractor in there occasionally. Improvements to Brunswick Avenue. Mr. Sachs has reviewed the contracts and said they'll pay for execution. I'm told they should be done in the next day or two, and I can pick them up. Mr. Sachs has provided us with a list of properties where we need the easements for the sidewalks. There are 7 of them. If you go to the next sheet, the 3 that are on that sheet are in the lower end of the project, and those 3 would be required if you want to run the sidewalk all the way from Snow Hill up to 2nd Street. The next sheet is the upper end of Brunswick Avenue, where we had presented to you the option of infilling some missing sidewalks. There's 4 properties there that you would need the easements from. We did use that item as a deletion item, but if the project, during the course of the project, we found that it was coming in under budget and you wanted to do a change order to reinstate that deletion item, you could and build it if you had those easements. So I will allow you to decide how you want to proceed with that and advise Mr. Sachs accordingly. The Adirondack Avenue, we're continuing our work on that. To the lake, I attached another drawing. We've analyzed the bathymetry work that we did recently. It's higher in some areas, lower in other areas. I would associate that with Hurricane Sandy. So what we've given you on the page behind the drawing is a few scenarios for what we're calling Area 1, which would be all of the crosshatched area, which is in gray plus blue, kind of up to the island. It really runs up to the center of the channel as it shows on our mapping, and showing you various steps there and what the approximate cost would be. Till we know how the soil is going to be disposed of, we don't know the exact cost for all this work, but I'm using an average that a contractor told us would probably be reasonable. And then Area 2 is a smaller area, which is the gray area, and again, for various depths, so that you have a sense of what the cost would be and can decide if this is what you'd like to do, and if not, if you want to do a different area, just let me know. You have $2.5 million for the hard and the soft costs on this project. So no decision needs to be made tonight, but I just wanted to keep the information, give you the newest information so you can look at it, talk amongst yourselves, and decide how you would like to proceed.
Do you have any questions for the engineer?
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance second reading. Ordinance number 2020-1.
Just to see if it's not happening.
Oh, just from here? Okay. A Borough of Spotswood, Middlesex County, calendar year 2020-1, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank NJSA 40A:4-4514. Resolutions under consent agenda. Copies of the resolutions under consent agenda are available for perusal only on the table. Anyone desiring a copy may contact the clerk after the meeting. Resolution 2020-38. Borough Council wishes to appoint Alyssa Guglietti, full-time deputy clerk, retroactive back to January 1st, 2020, with full-time annual salary $39,520. This is changing deputy clerk from part-time to full-time, amending ordinance 2008-6. The annual salary currently exceeds our present salary ordinance, and it's Borough Council's intent to amend the salary ordinance prior to year end. 2020-41, appropriation reserve transfers within the 2019 budget during the first 3 months of the following year. 2020-42, the governing body of the Borough of Spotswood authorized Alcari Ivano Architects PC to provide professional architectural services in connection with rehabilitation of the George Street Water Treatment Plant for a total amount not to exceed $38,000. 2020-43, the Borough Council authorized CME Associates to perform professional engineering services in connection with the rehabilitation of George Street Water Treatment Plant for a total amount not to exceed $197,545. 2020-44, amend late fee for animal licensing due to postal problems with sending out notices, amended late fee from February 7th to 2020 to March 15th, 2020. 2020-45, payment of bills. 2020-46, the Borough of Spotswood, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey intends to file an application with the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Financing Program / Water Bank through the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, NJDEP, and the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, and authorize Don McDonald, BA, to act as the authorized representative to represent in all matters relating to the project undertaken pursuant to the above referenced New Jersey Infrastructure Financing Program Water Bank. Okay, proclamation. Okay. Want to open it to the public?
All in favor?
Good evening, Holly Ronco, 118 Allen Road. Again with the glasses. 2020-46. Okay, seriously? Dawn McDonald? Are we kidding? We have 3 lawsuits. We have $4,000 that we had to return to FEMA. She can't get along with anybody. We took human resources away from her. We suspended her, but we're going to put her in charge of this project. Anybody else see a problem with this besides me? And speaking of, where is she? This is now the 3rd meeting that she hasn't been at. She's the only BA that doesn't show up to meetings. We need to reconsider this. Somebody else needs to be appointed to this.
Hi, my name's John Profaci. I don't know if you know the project in Spotswood, Heritage at Spotswood. It's off of Dora and McKinley. And I don't know if any of these things you talked about with water or water plants, I really don't understand everything. But once again, I'm the contract purchaser on that property, and I have a preliminary and final approval for over 1.5 years, and I do not have access to water for the project. And Bruce, I don't know if you could enlighten me, or I don't know if everybody here knows of the situation, but my first investor partner there has bailed on the situation, and we have, I don't know if everybody knows the severity of us not being able to do the project that we have approved in town. Does any of these water improvements have anything to do with that project?
Not with your project, but with the correction of the firm capacity issues they do.
They do, okay. Could you give me any idea of where we're looking at as far as when we're going to be able to receive water? Once again, I'm invested in this project for extreme amount of money, and it's been around 1.5 years, and it's a very big, we're getting back into a corner now, where I'm going to be in breach, other people are going to breach, and it's going to implode into a lot of different things that are not going to be good for anybody. And we keep calling and asking to see if there's going to be a solution.
I don't believe I'm at liberty to say, but I know the governing body is working on the solution from a couple angles. So it's possible that in the next few weeks or so, there may be more information available.
Please. I would like to try to get this taken care of before it turns into something that none of us want. Okay? So everybody's aware of it. Just make a public record. Thank you.
Question for you.
Yes, please.
Because I remember that there was an issue with trees on that property.
Yes, sir.
Has that been solved?
It hasn't. Actually, I wasn't here for the last 2 meetings, but my professionals had come here once or twice. And I wasn't sure how all these calculations work with the trees, but I thought we were being assessed at $200,000, and we came here looking for relief. And nobody ever called a vote, didn't follow up. But after that, we had a meeting with Bruce, and it came out that they calculated, CME and then the firm, that tree assessment calculations fee for me would be $575,000. Yeah, that's 80% of this property's value. So this is another thing in front of me that just keeps thrown in front. And so I'm going to, of course, challenge that and ask you to work cooperatively with you. I'm going to hire a tree expert and go through the ordinance, because obviously it's very unfair. You know, and I really don't know what's going on here, but I really ask for help to get it rectified, you know, once again, before it turns into something that it really shouldn't.
Council President, maybe I could just weigh in for a second as well. I did receive a telephone call from Mr. Profaci's attorney today requesting that a meeting be set up with myself and with Mr. Koch for some time next week. But I don't believe this council has really dealt with this issue. This was a planning board matter, it was a planning board approval. But you know, certainly Mr. Koch and myself are willing to sit down with your council, Mr. President.
Thank you, thank you. The last thing I want to say is that after working on this thing for years, and fees we paid to the township, to the CME, engineers, all the professionals, heavily invested, no one has ever told me that there was some kind of a water deficit in town, which is, I just could never understand. You know, why would I have a full final approval and at the end I told that there's an issue?
Didn't you receive a letter from the state when you guys applied to build the homes?
After the approval, I believe.
And what did that say?
You know, I'm not even 100% sure exactly.
Because I know they turned around and says that you couldn't build because we had a problem with water, we couldn't supply you with the water.
Apparently it was something that
that was known, that,
Right.
that wasn't disclosed to me, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars later, so.
Well, again, we didn't know because the state turned around and changed their calculations and everything like that. So it was unknown to us either.
Okay.
So, you know, we both got caught out there with this.
Hopefully we could work together.
Okay, but as I recall, because I also sat on the planning board, and when that was brought up here, again, we had an issue with the water, that we couldn't supply you with that water. That's why we're trying to get George Street back online and trying to get the state to let us supply more water, because there's a restriction on how much water we could get.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the date that that happened. I know we're here where we are now. So, but I appreciate any kind of help going forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom Guzbowski, 304 Brunswick Avenue. I brought this exact problem to this council a couple of years now about, you're telling this gentleman there's not enough water in this town. I brought this up about houses being built in this town. I said, how can the town let somebody build a house when you don't have enough water? And how did the guy on the corner of Adirondack get those houses thrown up?
Yeah, good
If
question.
there's not enough water, how did he get it? Oh, I know why. Because he's somebody's buddy in the good old, the big boys class, right? I brought this exact to this council. Maybe not all you guys were here, but I mentioned this because I said, how can you let a town build more houses if we don't have enough water to put fires and stuff out? And I was told, you cannot stop a person from building on their property. And I'll be his witness for that.
Jackie Palmer, 9 Shipman Street. So that was a little just disturbing to me, and I think probably at the looks of most people's faces sitting here, that was a little bit of a surprise as well, because it sounds like a planning board issue more so. However, Bruce, how long is the project that you guys are going to vote on these resolutions to spend yet more money, taxpayer dollars, on projects, on another project, which I'm not saying that it is not absolutely needed. How long is this project going to take?
Between a year or two.
So does that mean really like 4 to 5? Because we've been waiting for the cottage streets to be paved for 4 years. Like that project's been 4 years, because I remember that Ed, that's when he ran for mayor, he was talking about paving the cottage streets, and we've been doing that for 4 years. We have a number of projects that are listed that are still open, that are not, and we are just funneling monies, because apparently somewhere we have millions and billions of dollars. And now we're having multiple lawsuits that come at our town that are gonna be now from builders, we have lawsuits from employees, we have lawsuits all over the place, but we're just gonna keep hemorrhaging the taxpayers. Why? At what point are we gonna stop, reassess what's happening as a borough, and I brought this up before, and I'm gonna bring it up again, and I'll bring it up again when a new administration comes in. When are we going to look at the money and figure out where it all goes and where we're spending the money? Are we gonna do a forensic audit? There should be a forensic audit done, because no one here knows what's going on. No one. I come meeting after meeting, I stand here and I ask questions about the bill list, I ask questions about what's going on, and consistently I have people looking at me, either you don't want to answer or you have no idea what's happening. So stop spending our money until we figure out what's going on. Until everybody has a firm grasp as to what's happening with our tax dollars. We're going to exceed our cap, we're making sure, you know, every time we come, there's another list of bills, another project that we're starting. We have the Adirondack project, that's likely gonna take another year or two to finish that. We haven't done the cottage streets yet. We keep hearing week after week after week that we're talking to PSE&G about paving Old Stage Road. We all drive around this town. You cannot drive through Spotswood without legitimately losing one of your hubcaps on a street. And those are emergency roads. Those are roads that everybody drives every single day to get to school. We can't walk, we have no sidewalks, we have nothing. Yet we're funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars for engineering costs, for architectural things, and now we're gonna be funneling money for lawsuits. Who's gonna step up and say enough and stop? And let's stop, because we can't right now. You cannot continue to basically ravage the taxpayers on every single dollar. Enough. Stop. You gotta stop.
Hi, Diane Charlesworth, 29 Old Stage Road. At the last meeting, we learned, thanks to Jackie, that you guys have the authority to terminate B.A. McDonald's employment.
That's for the next session. Right now, we're just talking about things that are on the consent agenda.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I jumped the gun. I'll be back.
No, it's okay.
Hi, Ann Wallace, 277 Brunswick Avenue. Why are we paying people $500 for the sidewalk easement? When I had my sidewalk put in, I had to pay for it. They didn't give me any money. I paid for my sidewalk. So why are we giving people $500 for easement?
Actually, I can probably answer that. Okay.
Thank you.
The reason that those funds are being paid to those property owners is that it's being paid in lieu of a condemnation. So in essence, what has to happen is the borough has to acquire that portion of their property and is giving them just compensation for it, which
Well, wait a second. I thought the first 10 foot of your property,
is not where these sidewalks are going.
is it because it's small? Okay.
And 500, by the way, is the minimum amount that you can pay for that.
I just want to make sure, because like I said, we had to pay for our sidewalks. These people are getting them done for nothing. They're lucky.
Yeah, so that's the only reason why. It's a little bit different. Now, no condemnation lawsuits have been filed yet on any of these property owners. I think as Mr. Koch indicated, there are 7 property owners who just either haven't responded to any letters or just non-responsive. There may have to be the threat of the filing of a condemnation action as to those property owners. But most property owners have been cooperative, and that's what the $500 is being paid for.
Thank you.
My name's Nancy Stevens, 28 Rainbow Lane. I just want to confirm, is PSE&G responsible to pave all the roads now that they've, cut to put their gas in? They are?
PSEG only pays half of their, whatever they dug up.
Oh, they're just, back by us, well,
Yeah,
The whole
they
roads are
haven't finished
destroyed.
up, they haven't finished yet
No,
on
no.
that.
but they will pave.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Cheryl Bass, Main Street, also regarding 2020-46 with the Water Bank, the Environmental Infrastructure Financing Program, Water Bank. As many of the old-time council people are aware, I would come here to the microphone and talk about Detroit's water, which went to Flint Water. Detroit went bankrupt July 18th, 2013. And the bankruptcy expert who took care had gone through everything. And at that point in time, the Detroit News was publishing that the Environmental Protection Agency from Detroit with their water had informed the Environmental Protection Agency in Washington, D.C. about the problems of Detroit water. And now the matter is at the Supreme Court, and they are including the governor, and the governor was only fed information from the different levels of the Environmental Protection Agency. It was a different administration in the White House at that point of time, and a lot of things were not brought to the forefront. And the Environmental Protection Agency has not made any, just parenthetically, the Environmental Protection Agency hasn't said anything about the human waste that is in the streets of San Francisco, end of parentheses. I would say, why not look for somebody else instead of Dawn McDonald for this job? My recommendation would be find someone else. She cannot be the one and only person who has qualifications for this job. I would say look for somebody else who has qualifications for this job.
Steve Ronco. So I guess piggybacking off of that, what expertise does she have? Does she have any certifications, knowledge, education to be the authorized representative in this?
Well, I'd like to tell you, Steve, but the two people that would know aren't here.
I guess typical. Why isn't she here?
That's a good question. As far as I understand, she was told she didn't have to come.
So as a council, can we demand her be here as part of her salary?
It's going to be my next request for the mayor.
Thank you.
No, not for the mayor, for you guys. Let's make an ordinance that she has to be here at council meetings.
Well, she is supposed to be here, and the only person that's here by invitation is the mayor.
So then why are we not holding her accountable for not being here?
What I'm going to find out.
No, that's your guys' job, is to hold her accountable.
I just told you, I do my best.
But it's not to talk to her or talk to him, it's about holding her accountable as the,
I want to know why he gave her permission to not be here.
but that's not his job to give her permission to do that.
I understand that. Those are questions that I will ask him tomorrow, because I thought she was going to be here.
So what are we gonna do in the future to make sure she's here?
Tell him that she's supposed to be here, that's what she gets paid for.
And then when she doesn't come here, what's gonna happen?
And we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
But let's have a plan, so when she doesn't do it, we have something in place that way, it's not, oh, I didn't know that's gonna
I have
happen.
a plan, Steve. I only found out when I showed up and she wasn't here.
But there's been more times that she hasn't been here.
I know, she wasn't here last week also.
Correct.
I know.
So let's hold her responsible and let's make an ordinance. I know it's part of her salary and job description, so she should be held accountable. There shouldn't be, let's ask Ed why he gave her permission. He doesn't have that authority.
He's her boss.
Okay, and what do you guys? You guys can fire her.
We understand that.
So, I mean, she's got no certification, no knowledge to be the authorized representative, so she can make final decisions on stuff?
I have no idea what's on the agenda. I'm going to check with that also.
So again, we had no idea what's on the agenda a week before it comes out. So when are we gonna fix that?
As soon as I can. You know, this is like my third week.
I get it,
You got to give me a little time to fix things. It takes time.
but this was talked about last year by Ted.
I understand that, but we're talking a new guy that's been here in this position 3 weeks. You got to give me a break.
Oh, I get it.
Let me do my investigations. Let me find out why, and then I'll have an answer for you.
All right, so let's get an answer next week on when we're gonna get the agendas out, so everybody can see, including you guys. And let's get an ordinance put in place so that it's not gonna be, well, we're gonna do it next week, we're gonna figure it out another time. You know, it's been talked about last year by Ted and by me on getting that stuff done. So let's get the ball rolling and get it done.
I wasn't in charge last week.
I get it.
Last year, I am now. I will do my best to get it done.
So she's authorized representative, she's got no knowledge, no nothing, and is she getting paid any more for this?
Not as far as I know. No.
No. All right.
Close the open session.
All in favor?
I guess we can close the caucus meeting. We just need a motion to close it.
Motion to adjourn the meeting. Second that too.
All in favor?
I know. I should
You're just ripping my pocket. I'll do that in minutes.
Oh, yeah?
Notice requirements provided in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in the new schedule of meetings of the Spotswood Borough Council on December 27, 2019. The new schedule was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and Sentinel. It was filed with the clerk of the Borough of Spotswood and posted in the municipal building located at 77 Summerhill Road, Spotswood, New Jersey. Call to order, salute the flag, and a moment of silence and roll call.
Councilman Ritchie?
Here.
Councilman Rivera?
Here.
Councilman Malillo?
Here.
Councilman Spacuzzo? Council President Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Sealy? We have a set of minutes of the caucus meeting of January 22nd, 2020.
Motion to move those minutes.
Second.
Councilman Ritchie?
Yes.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo? Councilman President Kramer?
Yes.
We have another set of minutes of the regular meeting from January 22nd, 2020.
Make motion to move them set of minutes.
Second.
Councilman Ritchie?
Yes.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Council President Kramer?
Yes.
Okay, we have an ordinance on second reading. Ordinance 2020-1 was posted in the municipal building on January 23rd, 2020, and advertised in full in the Home News Tribune on January 27th. Ordinance 2020-1, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Make a motion to open in public.
Motion we open to the public.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to...
Make a motion to move the ordinance be adopted on second and final reading and published according to law.
Second.
Councilman Ritchie?
Yes.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Council President Kramer?
Yes.
Council President, council members, I'll take a motion to accept the resolutions on the consent agenda. Resolutions 2020-38 and 2020 through -41 through 2020-46.
Make a motion, we accept the resolutions for Bill 2020-46.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, so just the consent agenda then would be 20, 38, 41, 42, 43, 44, and 45. 46 is being pulled,
Right.
and obviously would be considered at a future council meeting.
Okay. Who seconded?
I did.
Councilman Ritchie?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Council President Kramer?
Yes. Proclamation National Wear Red Day. Whereas the diseases of the heart are the nation's leading cause of death, and stroke is the fourth leading cause of death. Whereas cardiovascular disease claims the lives of nearly 420,000 American women each year, approximately 1 death per minute. Whereas nearly as many women die of heart disease, stroke, and all other cardiovascular diseases than the next 4 leading causes of death combined, including all cancers. Whereas February is designated as American Heart Month, and February 7th, 2020 will mark the 17th anniversary celebration of National Wear Red for Women's Day. Whereas Go Red for Women is the American Heart Association's national movement and call to increase awareness about heart disease, the leading cause of death for women, and to inspire women to take charge of their heart health. Whereas making the right choices relating to proper nutrition, physical activity, and other health lifestyle choices are essential to living a heart-healthy life. And whereas by choosing to improve heart and stroke health, the American Heart Association Go Red for Women asks that across America, women go red and help save lives from heart disease and stroke. Now, therefore, I, Ed Seeley, Mayor of the Borough of Spotswood, on behalf of the entire governing body, in recognition of the importance of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke, do hereby proclaim February to be American Heart Month in Spotswood, New Jersey. I further proclaim Friday, February 7th, to be Wear Red for Women Day. We particularly urge all citizens to show their support for women and the fight against heart disease by increasing awareness, speaking up about heart disease, and empowering women to reduce their risk of cardiovascular disease. We can save thousands of lives each year. Dated February 3rd, 2020. What's that? Oh, liaison. John, you have anything?
Nothing.
Ted? No, fine.
The lady that came up from Rainbow Lane. All right, Rainbow Lane is one of the projects that is supposed to be getting paid by us, because that's what we received a grant for. Okay, that area back there. What we're trying to do is have JCP&L, not JCP&L, PSE&G, instead of paving your road, just put the topping on it, and then take that portion that they were gonna do and use it on Old Stage. So that area that we already got the grant for, take half of that and use it on Old Stage. It's gonna get, what, 60%?
Good,
Now 60% of Old Stage paid. The issue is with PSE&G, they use a better grade of asphalt. So for us to turn around and have them pay half of it, and then we go in there and tear it up again, it's a waste of money. So let's have them do Old Stage, and we'll take care of what we got the grant for.
Thank you.
Okay, so, you know, that's best we could do, you know. We did talk to them. All right, that's all I got.
No, I just want to know, as long as, I knew we had approval to pave it.
Right.
So I thought now if they're creating all this, maybe instead of us spending the money.
If you could do that in open session, please. Thank you. Or if you want to come up to the mic, that would be fine.
No.
Wait till the public portion, any, yeah, just a couple of things to report, just 3 things. I know at the last meeting, I think there was some discussion about the garage sale ordinance, and I think there were some very good comments made by members of the public. So I'm going to look at our current garage sale ordinance and see if we can fine tune it to address a lot of those very valid concerns. So I'll be bringing that, obviously, to council at a later date. And I think I alluded to it at the last, during the caucus meeting about the Carriage Street and Brunswick Avenue. We've gotten about 50% cooperation from those homeowners, but at some point, and what I'll do next is I'm going to send one more letter to these property owners and give them some type of deadline to respond. And if they don't respond, then I'll be coming back to the council requesting authorization to file condemnation actions. That's the only way we'll be, we can really proceed on this project. And that's it.
I have nothing. Stall here. All right, so, motion to open the public forum.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
I'm back with the Dan Kenny. Who writes the resolutions? Like, who wrote that 2020-46? Who's the author of that fine piece of literature? Right in Charleston, 29 Old State Road, I'm sorry.
Ed.
Ed wrote that? No one's gonna claim it? Was a red-headed stepchild here, what?
It came out of the mayor's office.
Okay.
So she wrote it.
CME, did you help with that, or just
We
your?
did provide some language that was used, that was approved by the state for describing the project.
And were any qualifications for that position established when you wrote the resolution?
We didn't have anything to do with the actual position. We just had to describe for the high bank what the nature of the project was. We didn't have anything to do with anything.
The recommendation.
So he didn't.
So that came from whom?
The mayor.
The mayor.
Okay. And of course, he's not here to. All right. Doesn't it seem a little peculiar that at the last meeting, we found out that you guys had the authority to terminate Ms. McDonald, and now at this meeting, there's a resolution to give her a new position? Is anybody else's head spinning besides mine?
I don't know that this is a new position or just part of the
And
job
it's-
description to do this. I don't think they're giving her anything new. I mean, there's the number of jobs she does as a business administrator that anyone as a business administrator would do. You know, there's no doubt in my mind that if things come in that are above her pay grade, she's going to seek advice from either Bruce or seek advice from the attorney on this. This is any VA that's going to be sitting there. Not every VA will be qualified to do every single thing that could possibly come in. That's why you have to rely on professionals.
Okay, but Ted, that's fine, but she doesn't even have the barest minimum of qualifications for her position.
And again, you know, a previous council approved her.
I understand that, and nobody's putting you on the hook for it. But you now have the authority and the right to remedy the situation and to prevent pieces of literature like this resolution from coming before you again and before us.
And I believe that our attorney is going to address part of what you're asking about us being able to terminate her position.
Okay?
There are some.
Not necessarily her position, but her. Okay. I mean, I think we still need a business administrator.
Absolutely, the business administrator.
Okay.
But there are some concerns from the attorney about doing something like this, and I believe that, you know, he will address that.
When? Tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can address it. What I can address, and I'm going to move this microphone so close to me. I mean, I think at the last meeting, one of the questions was, you know, whether or not the council can terminate.
Has the authority to do that.
Correct. And yes, my answer at that time was yes.
Okay.
And that's pursuant to a state statute. And let me just read it, so hopefully members of the public will understand it. It's NJSA 40:69A-37. And I'll just read you the statute. It talks about the powers of the council. The council, in addition to such other powers and duties as may be conferred upon it by this charters or otherwise by general law, may, A, require any municipal officer in its discretion to prepare and submit sworn statements regarding his official duties and the performance thereof, and otherwise to investigate the conduct of any department, office, or agency of the municipal government, and B, remove by at least 2/3 vote of the whole number of the council any municipal officer other than the mayor or a member of the council for cause upon notice and an opportunity to be heard. So that's what the law is.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers some questions that the public may have.
It does. I just kind of wonder why we're dragging our feet. Okay, that's one. Number two, Larry, you had talked about that the borough was looking to buy a hot patch
Hot patch
machine.
machine, yes.
And what's the status of that?
Well, until we get the budget, we don't know, once the budget comes out, what we have, where we can use it. Trust me, I want the hot patch.
I want it in front of 29 Old Stage Road tomorrow, please. Ave Maria, are you kidding me? There's one that keeps
It's a
coming.
definite need.
It's like a groundhog. It comes back every year. We've lived in that house since 1995. It's never been fixed properly.
Yeah, it's a definite plus. We need, we spend a lot of money on coal patches when the water mains break, and then we have to go back out and patch it again when the trucks tear it all up. So yeah, we need a hot patch machine to make it much better.
I think you said it was like 40 grand?
$41,000.
In that range?
Yeah, I have an estimate of $41,000.
Okay. Tomorrow.
It's on the need.
Good evening. Dave Biglietti, Mary Lane. On a positive note, I'd like to congratulate Alyssa on her appointment to Deputy Municipal Clerk. I wish you all the success in the world. I'd like to thank the board and congratulate the board for creating the position and a little prejudice, but filling it with Alyssa. I don't think you'll have any regrets whatsoever. Congratulations.
Jackie Palmer, 9 Shupin Street. Alyssa, welcome to the party. We're so very happy to have you. I have a question for the attorney. So Borough Code, state law, right, which is what you read, and then there's the Borough Code on top of that. So which do we follow?
The state law supersedes anything.
Okay, because, so I just want to make sure, because in our code, we also have specifically that written, and the 2/3 piece of it is removed from our borough code.
Okay.
And the reason I think that may have been done like that is because we only have 5 members on a council, right? So the state law is written from, it can be 3 to 9, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So 3 to 9 people. There's a big difference between a council of 9 and having 2/3 vote as opposed to a council of 5 and having a 2/3 vote. So our code reads that they can it just says remove any borough officer other than the mayor or a member of council for cause upon notice and an opportunity to be heard. So our code removed that 2/3 vote piece of it. But you're saying that we have to follow.
Yeah, I mean, the state statute is always going to preempt anything local.
So it's going to be 3 to 5.
Interesting.
Just like the federal government preempts anything state. They always go to the higher authority,
Yeah. Funny how that works, isn't it?
right?
Funny. Interesting. Forgive me while I pull up my notes again. So we have been now served with 2 lawsuits, right? So another question for you. What's the purpose of a tort claim?
Okay, good question. All right. The purpose of a tort claim is, it is a precondition to filing a lawsuit in the state of New Jersey. It's called the New Jersey Tort Claims Act. You have to file it within 90 days of a certain event occurring, and then a lawsuit has to be filed within a year of the filing of that tort claims notice.
And typically they call it like a cooling off period, right? So it gives an opportunity for both parties to essentially look at the claims and potentially rectify the situation if possible before a lawsuit. Is that?
Perhaps, but again, I didn't I don't really know if we'll ever know what the legislative intent was of the state legislature when they adopted the New Jersey Tort Claims Act. But it is very specific, so you've got to file it within 90 days, and then you've got to file a lawsuit within a year.
Right. Okay. So, you know, and I've stood here now, we're going on 10 months. 10 months ago, we received our first tort claim from the chief and the captain. We've had an opportunity as a borough council, because all of you have been here for that time period, and we've had an opportunity as a borough to make decisions and potentially avoid litigation if we possibly could. We've done nothing. I mean, let's all be blatantly honest. We've done nothing. Absolutely, positively, not one thing. We gave a business administrator a leave of absence in which she was paid. We brought her back without any type of remedy of the situation. No, maybe you should go to dealing with difficult people's course. Maybe you need to take an HR class. Maybe we should give her an HR for Dummies handbook, or maybe a managing people handbook, something in which she would have to actually be held accountable for her actions. Instead, we ensured that she had a letter that basically gave her, in her mind, because she's publicly announced this, that we gave her a letter that was sent to her by Councilman Spacuzzo, saying that she basically was unfounded, that we had this farce of a investigation that was done, and no wrongdoing was done on the part of the borough. So on October 29th last year, I sent an email to every one of you. And in that email, I asked you to ensure that that letter was rescinded. Because I felt that, one, I don't believe, and I would like you to poll the council, I don't believe that any of you saw that letter, voted on that letter, or agreed to that letter. And I would like to know whether or not you did.
I did not see it. I did not vote on it. I had no idea until it came out that it was sent.
Anybody else?
It's going to be the same for all of us, Jack, you know that.
Okay, well, I want it,
That
see,
was done unilaterally.
so my issue is that you five that are sitting there basically were made to look like fools. Okay? And that's an embarrassment not only to you, but to us as well, because we put you in those seats. So my recommendation last meeting, and my recommendation again this meeting, is for this council to rescind that letter immediately. If you did not see that, did you finally all get a copy, get an actual physical copy of that report from the investigator?
I have the report.
Is everybody on the council going to get a copy of that report?
I have to leave that up to Mr. Sachs, but I believe we can make copies for everybody on council.
Well, I have to tell you, yeah, I mean, certainly council is allowed to have that report. That is not a public report. Let me stand back here.
You can yell at me, it's okay.
No, that is not a public report at this particular point, and I'll tell you why. Now that we have 2 lawsuits filed by Chief Zarro and Captain Corpusero and Mr. Nichols, a lot of the detail in that report pertains to these lawsuits. And it's really it cannot be disclosed because it would be breaching attorney-client privilege. It would be breaching litigation strategy for dealing with those lawsuits. I still have to hear back from Labor Council as to whether or not, and I think I mentioned that at the last hearing. He has not gotten back to me, but I will follow up with him to see if that can be disseminated to the council members, but certainly cannot be released to the public, and particularly in light of the fact now that these lawsuits have been filed.
Oh, I'm sure we'll see it.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you will see it through the lawsuits. So my question to you is, do you have an intention to go into closed session to rescind that letter? Or can you do it in public?
I don't believe that there's a closed session on schedule for today, but I would like to rescind it. But I don't know.
So how do we go about doing that? Do they have to go into closed session? Can they have a discussion about it right now? Because you have 4 people sitting here who said they had no clue about this letter that went
Yeah,
out.
no, I think that's something, again, because of this litigation that's involved in this, with several former employees and employees of the town, that's something that would have to be discussed in closed session, so. Certainly not tonight because we didn't have, there's no closed session scheduled.
Correct.
tonight, so.
The point of the matter is that we did not have a lawsuit at the time when this was sent to you and requested. And I asked for action. I got no response, none. We've all discussed this, I know I've talked to a few of you about it, but not even a courtesy of received, thank you, we'll look into it, you're right, Jack, you're wrong, Jack, whatever you want to say, none of it. And that's just, again, we put you in those seats to do a job. We expect you to do it. Has there been a JIF attorney assigned for these lawsuits?
The complaints were sent to the JIF, and I have not been advised who counsel is yet. Certainly they have 35 days from, or the town has 35 days, from being served with a complaint to file an answer, and that would have to be done by an attorney. But I'm not sure who the JIF attorney is on either lawsuit at this point.
So we're not at 35 days yet for Nichols' lawsuit?
Nichols, you might be close to it, and it's quite possible, again, just from my experience, that counsel for JIF may have requested an extension to file the answer. The Zarrow and Corbacero lawsuits were just served on us, I think, last week. So but I know that it was forwarded to JIF.
So were those lawsuits served upon the labor attorney prior to the borough being served? Or?
No, I don't know if the labor attorney got a copy of them out of courtesy, because sometimes what will happen is if they've been dealing with an attorney, they'll just send a copy to that attorney. But the official service of those complaints is on the municipality, was served upon the municipal clerk.
Okay.
And obviously Pat advised me the same day she got served. So that's when the clock starts running.
So it starts right, it's not when they file with the court?
Yeah. No, it's a public service.
It's when they...
Yeah, got a microphone here. The clock starts running upon service, proper service under the New Jersey court rules.
So is it possible that the attorney that we still have on the books that we're paying for a labor attorney received a copy of this complaint and didn't tell the rest of you that it came through? Because all of us knew when it came through. Everybody here in this room, I'm 100% sure, knew when it came through.
Well, I will tell you that I actually was aware of the filing of that Nichols complaint, the first complaint. I actually called up the attorney and told the attorney, make sure you serve that upon the municipality. And obviously, that's what transpired. Because it's not proper service, unless, of course, an acknowledgement of service is signed by the attorney,
Right.
which could have occurred as well.
Be interesting if we could find that out. So we don't know who the JIF attorneys are. Will we be advised of that? Will counsel, will you be advised of that?
I'm sure I will be.
Okay, and we're going to ensure that there's, a conflict check and that there's no,
JIF wouldn't assign it unless if there was a conflict, they would not assign it to an attorney with the conflict. No, I know that. They're very, very copious when it comes to doing conflict checks.
yeah, everybody is, right? Just like we got the,
I have
that,
little information that he doesn't. I
I'd love to
told
hear.
the JIF attorney, it's Hoagland's office, and it's supposed to go to Susan, can't remember her last name, but I have her first name printed down.
She's, for both?
Hoagland's office.
But is she for both lawsuits or?
They didn't say
Or just
whether it was
Nichols?
for just Nichols, they just told me that that office is assigned and that,
And they're out of where?
They're in New Brunswick.
New Brunswick. Oh, Hoagland, okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Last thing for now. Do we have an update on our purchase of 474 Main Street?
I haven't heard anything.
Do we own it? Are we proud owners of the property?
I can respond. Yes, we do own it. It closed about 2 weeks ago. I'm waiting to get back the recorded deed from the title company. And the only other thing that has to happen is to get the letter of no further action or letter of interpretation from the NJDEP as to a very small section of wetlands, which I've been assured by Center State Engineering that they'll be able to receive that. So that's all I can report at this particular point in time.
Any plan on what we're doing with it now that we own it? Nothing? Nobody's got it?
That's up to the town. I mean, obviously the council will have to make
I know, I'm asking. Any idea what we plan on doing with that? So we just, again, I'll say, we threw away over $12,000 a year to purchase a piece of property that we had no plan of action on. And now is a little piece of wetlands, which we were told about that, you know, when everything was fine with the DEP and all that, but clearly not, but whatever.
And that's not what I said. I said that there is a small section of wetlands of which they will receive a letter of interpretation and exemption. So that's what the plan is.
Prior to you, right, so, no disrespect, prior to you, right, we were told, and everybody here was told, oh, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that property, not one thing, everything is good. We neglected to tell anybody in the public that there was a piece of wetlands on it, which we all know there's a piece of wetlands on every piece of property in Spotswood, which is probably how they built those houses on the ends of Adirondack, because they probably put a well in there, because that's wet over there. But, we have no plans, we have no idea, we have no thoughts, nothing went to the engineer, nothing.
I have a thought, but I don't know how far that's gonna go right now, but.
Nothing. You wanna?
We make a decent new firehouse someday. That's a very big expense though, so.
Well, the fire department has been here asking for that. They've asked for that multiple years in a row. They've asked to purchase that property, which I find it very interesting that the fire department's been asking to purchase that piece of property in their budget for so many years because it's been for sale forever. And now we acquired it, purchased it, bought it for fair market value, which again boggles my mind from the fact that it's been literally for sale for forever. And no one wanted anything to do with it. But we thought we'd like something to do with it, but we didn't have a plan for it. Fantastic. Yet again, yet another dollar amount spent from the taxpayer dollars with no plan of action.
In case you didn't realize, I'm a taxpayer too.
Again, and I say to you guys, we have to stop hemorrhaging money for a second.
You gotta put it on the market. That property's gotta go on the market.
Why are we in the real estate business?
You gotta put it on the market. They sold the property, the town sold the property.
No, the town bought the property,
I
John.
said, well, they bought it, and said they wanna sell it. So they put it-
Now the town wants to sell it?
I'm saying me, I'm just saying.
Oh,
So you want us to keep the property?
no, I don't know why we bought it. I'm trying to figure out why we're in the real estate business as a borough.
That's why, listen, I'm gonna say something, but who ain't gonna like it, whatever. The property's there. Somebody comes along, wants to buy it.
It's been for sale for 20 years, nobody's bought it.
They wanna buy it.
Yes.
All right, so.
Who wants to buy it?
You gotta put it out there.
No, we bought it. It was already for sale. Why did we buy it, is what my question is. If we didn't have a plan for what we were gonna do with it, why would we purchase
He must have an
it?
idea, he wants to do something over there.
What?
What?
So we don't know, he don't know, whatever it is, okay. But I talked to the guy, Mayor, I talked to him all the time. And I said, and what are you gonna do with that property? You know, you took 382, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I said, what are you gonna do? Well, we're gonna, I said, you gotta get that property and sell it to where you're gonna get revenue out of it. Good revenue. I don't mean a candy store. You gotta get it and sell it to somebody that's gonna, professional building, something like that. Somebody that's gonna bring money into the town. I'm looking for income. This town needs income. Fast. That's what
We need to
have
stop spending money.
Now, the VA, whatever. I mean, you gotta get, that's what's gotta be done with that. You just keep it there, keep it there, keep it there. That can be there forever.
Yeah, but so simple accounting. We were making, physically collecting over $12,000 a year on a piece of property.
It was tax.
Right? We were getting that money.
Yeah.
Now, we paid $3 300 and something thousand, 400,000 when all's said and done, for a piece of property that we're no longer collecting a dollar of income
There
on.
was no plan for it. Now, he-
Correct.
He's gotta get into the nitty-gritty, he's gotta do what he's gotta do.
Well, my recommendation in
So
the
if you're the
future,
guy-
perhaps you have a plan
That's right.
before you purchase a piece of property.
I'm talking my language, North language. That's the way you gotta do it. You gotta go at him and fight him.
What am I fighting?
Go out and fight.
You gotta talk to the mayor and
We've asked, I mean, resident after resident has stood here and said, tell us what the plan is. Tell us what you're doing. Why do we have to keep coming here and saying,
Well, then-
what is going on? Why am I asking
well,
you?
you got a different kind of heater on it. You gotta throw heat at it.
Well, would you like me to light my hair on fire before I stand up here? What do you want me to do? How many times do I have to stand here and ask the same questions?
I don't like it either. I don't like it.
Well, you're in a position that I am
I don't
not.
like it.
You're in a position to make a decision. I am not. We put you in that seat so that you can make a
I
decision.
talked about that property long ago, and no way that I could go there. I talked a
You
long
should have
time.
never bought it, is my point.
Jackie, at this point, a lot of people in town are in agreement that a firehouse would be an appropriate use of it. I think most of us on the council probably agree that a firehouse would be appropriate. These guys are getting a new truck, doesn't even fit in an old firehouse, would have to go to some demolition work.
$1 million.
Bottom line, if a firehouse does end up on that property, we have the firehouse building that can either be repurposed or
100%.
resold to get a rateable in.
100%.
You may even be able to put EMS in there, now you have two pieces of property in town that we can unload or repurpose part of it.
I agree with
Isn't
you.
it good, was it a good purchase? I don't think it was a horrible purchase.
I think when you purchased it without a plan. If you had that plan to start with, and you stood here and said, we have a plan. We are going to build a firehouse on here, like it, not like it, people want to do it, no do it, whatever they're, and we've decided that a firehouse is gonna go there because we have a new piece of apparatus that has to fit in there, and but the problem is that nobody's willing to take a stand. And oh, by the way, with the old firehouse, we might be able to make it into a community center, or we can make it into a new EMS building, and then we can take the EMS department and we can make that into a community center, or whatever. But if you had a plan.
I think as the year rolls on, you're going to see something come out that this is the direction it would like, that the town would like to see it go
Sure.
into. I think that doing something with fire and EMS together, if it's possible, would be a worthwhile venture.
Well, I believe that we, as a borough that owns it, sure. We now own it, it should go to the taxpayers. It should be determined that that use does not get sent to, bringing in an apartment complex or something of that nature. That should not be what happens. What happens should be is we own it, we should be able to utilize it.
Repurpose the other two buildings.
Agreed.
Sell the other two buildings.
Absolutely. Agreed.
That apartment complex was already shut down. It's not gonna happen.
Okay.
Bertha doesn't finish.
We'll be paying attention to the zoning and planning board
It
meetings.
doesn't
That's
finish.
it.
What would you do with that lot?
For one, I wouldn't have purchased it right away. John, if you want my opinion? So I would not have, I would have looked to my personal opinion on this is if the fire department had been looking at that, I would have them put their plan together on what it is and how things were going to be funded in order to do it. I would not have approved and purchased a piece of property with just, we don't know what, the mayor sat here numerous times and said, it will not be a firehouse. I sat in many meetings where we asked the question and he said it will not be a firehouse. So, there was no plan.
The firehouse now, right there.
Yes.
Okay. No. So now, in other words, what I'm trying to say to you, you're gonna get a ladder truck
Yes.
eventually. okay?
Correct.
So, knock part of the back wall down, if it makes any sense, and the front, part of it.
But that building can't be you can't do that to that building. Once you touch it, it's now one of those like structural issues, like there's issues with that building.
Wait, things can be solved. Now, what I'm saying, that who likes it, who don't like it, why do you want to get another firehouse and build one over there on Main Street? Why do you want to do that for? I would get the best out of that property, sell it for a good buck, so you get revenue out of it, good revenue. That's what I'm talking about. And leave the firehouse on Main Street alone if you want to put recreation center, listen to me. You wanna put a recreation, years ago, let me tell you, go to schools, these schools in town here. I was a kid one time like all of us were. We played basketball in the school, half of the court was basketball, the other half was volleyball. The gyms were open. Oh, no, they're doing it over here because somebody's gonna watch the kid. Come on, what are they, lazy? Just gonna go watch the kids.
So Jack, I've already looked into 55 you can get to the firehouse. And then the balance can be financed for 30 years of the firehouse. So it's feasible, we just have to, there's a few other things that have to be done first. Grant writer, that's the right grant, I don't know.
Too much spending money. See, now you wanna go spend money.
The
like
grant
you said.
writer.
No, I'm not the grant writer.
Yeah, okay.
You need a grant writer. You need a grant writer in this town. We absolutely hands down.
Where do you wanna go spend money?
The bottom line is this, okay? Guys, we do need the firehouse, all right? We're out of room. We have our gear, all right, down the vestibule going into the back hall. All right? We have a total of what? How many members now?
40, 44.
Okay? We're running out of room. Trucks are not getting smaller. Okay? 2 of our trucks are rescue engines, in which carries extrication equipment and everything.
Oh, my God.
All right? So, bottom line is, we're running out of room, and again, we're coming out of fires, car fires, or anything like that. Remember, our gear now that we fought the fire has contaminants. Okay? We have to put our gear somewhere. So contaminants, we put it back under the rack, what happens? We take it back home too. So again, we gotta start thinking also all the safety and all OSHA requirements and all that. So I asked the mayor about it. He told me it was gonna be a firehouse, then all of a sudden it got changed. So that's the bottom line.
One last question. Last meeting I brought up a situation in which I witnessed in the borough. And I realize that the mayor's not here to address the situation, but does anybody here know whether or not that issue was addressed? And what action may have been taken?
I spoke to Kate about it, because she was the one that was the closest part of that thing, and I spoke to Doug, and Doug was petrified. Kate I asked her to write down what happened and give it to me, and then we'll address it from that point forward. She hasn't done that yet.
So the mayor has not addressed the situation?
Not that I know of.
Nobody has any idea whether or not he addressed that situation with her or not?
I don't know. I'll find out, because I'm going to talk to him about her missing the meetings.
Well, because I attempt to follow the right chain of command, right? I can very easily pick up the phone and call the union rep and let that union rep know exactly what I heard. I'm happy to write an affidavit on what I heard and what I saw. Perhaps I should contact that employee who might want to file a lawsuit against the borough as well for that. Because I could tell you with 100% certainty that that employee was not Rice noticed, that there was going to be a public discussion about her employment. So all these things, and that's an ethical violation. When you have a closed door, and I heard through the grapevine that, the mayor's reaction to it was, well, she's allowed to talk about contracts. When we stand in this meeting and I ask a question and the lawyer says we cannot discuss that because it's a personnel issue in public, that means across the board in public areas, employees of this borough are to be keeping personnel information personal, right? Yes, true? Okay. So that's a violation on 100,000 different levels. And clearly our little vacation that we gave her did not, and the lack of any additional training into HR or personnel issues that she may have needed went by the wayside because she, again, did not heed any warning. And you live in an office that has a door that you could shut. So the second you start talking about something, you say, why don't we step into my office and shut the door? Because no one, it just so happened to be me, worst possible thing that could have happened. Because I was listening. So I expect, and the reason I did it in public is because I want it on the record, and I want action taken, because that is unfair to that employee, it is unfair to that union, it's unfair to Doug.
Okay. So give me the affidavit.
Absolutely, I will write it.
Okay.
You'll have it tomorrow in your email.
Colleen Ronco, Penelope Road. I'm going to kind of piggyback what Jackie just said with respect to the letter that Charlie wrote. I too also sent a letter to council stating that the letter needed to be rescinded. And I wanted to, by the way, congratulations, Lisa, and I want to thank you for the email today. I had requested the closed session minutes, which were approved at the last council meeting, and Alyssa was kind enough to send them to me the next day. So, the June 17, 2019 closed session minutes, it says here that subject matter of this section of the executive session was potential litigation. Mayor Sealy and Business Administrator McDonald were asked to leave the room regarding the pending allegations made against them. Mayor Sealy exited, however, Business Administrator McDonald decided to stay. I find that interesting that we're going to discuss something about her and she's allowed to remain in the room. But then it goes on to say, Labor Counsel Adam Abramson appeared before the council to discuss special counsel he is recommending to conduct a thorough investigation regarding the tort claims. He states he has no connection with the firm the special attorney works under and has no prior business dealings, which is also a lie. Mr. Abramson states that there was a conflict check conducted to make sure no one has any connections to the attorneys and all borough of Spotswood, and the results came out clean. However, this is the part, the next paragraph is where I have an issue. Discussions ensue regarding the length of time the investigation will take and the claimants involved. So we all know that from Oak requests that Abramson was talking to the special investigating attorney. We have bills that say that, we have Oak requests that have documents from the bills from the attorney that say that. It's been discussed here that it was said, so he spoke with Dawn, he spoke with, the investigator, the woman spoke with Dawn, spoke with Ed, spoke with the labor attorney. This is the part that I find interesting. Mr. Abramson states that reports will be produced only to council and the new attorney will only deal with the council directly. So this entire investigation should be redone. This entire investigation that you have a copy of that nobody else has seen except for when Charlie was kind enough to allow you guys to view it for whatever many minutes up in the mayor's office. I don't know how else, and I understand Jackie's frustration as well, because this obviously is a problem considering that Charlie sent out an exoneration letter that has made it to one public news agency where Dawn has stated that she has a letter that exonerates her. Well, again, we're dealing with a situation where the attorney, clearly, you guys discussed this in closed session where only you guys were supposed to be in touch with the special investigating attorney, and that's not the case. So this entire thing, the investigation needs to be thrown out, the letter needs to be thrown out, and then you guys need to take that situation from there and do what you need to do under the Faulkner Act to get rid of her. This can't keep going on like this. Jackie's right. We're hemorrhaging money left and right. If you think that these are the only two lawsuits that are going to be filed, I'm sadly mistaken. It's not. I think we all know that there's going to be additional lawsuits that are going to be filed. There's additional officers that were involved. After the first tort claim was filed, the mayor and Dawn retaliated by going to the prosecutor's office, which caused a whole other series of events to happen. It caused another updated tort claim to be filed. It caused additional charges to be in the tort claim. So, I think when we're dealing with a situation like this, we need to seriously have a discussion. You guys need to discuss whether or not you're going to rescind this letter. It needs to go. Hold a special meeting. You guys have done it before. Call a special meeting. Have a special meeting tomorrow night, Wednesday night, whatever it is, and get this letter rescinded so we can get rid of her and be done with this. It's way past it. I have a couple of other issues real quick that I want to bring up. If you have an email address from from the Spotswood Borough. I'm assuming that should be used only for the purposes of business with the Spotswood Borough. So you shouldn't be using that for, I don't know, so let's say, for instance, getting a Facebook page with the borough administration, correct? I mean, that would be an issue if,
I don't have no Facebook page.
right, so I mean, if you have a borough email address, it's for borough business. If you want to have a Facebook page, then you should make up, abc@gmail.com and do your Facebook page that way, correct? And if we're getting Facebook messages while you're at your job and you're replying to those messages, that would basically be, an ethical violation because you really shouldn't be doing that with borough email address, correct? Okay. A few months ago, I had sent to everybody on board, it was the list from an Oak request of all of the emails that Dawn McDonald had sent out and that she had received. If you go through that list, there's several of them where she is getting notifications from Facebook through her Spotswood Borough email address, which means that if she's getting notifications from a Facebook group, that she has a name using that email address, which now puts the town in a liability issue because now whatever she's doing as far as administrating a page for East Brunswick is now operable through the town because she's using a business address to do that. So do you understand my concern with her using that address? I mean, I could literally Oak request and say, I want those emails. She's gonna come back and say, no, you're not gonna get them, and then you're gonna get stopped with another lawsuit, at which point you're gonna lose because we have email addresses showing that she's using this to administer a Facebook page for East Brunswick. Not even for Spotswood, for East Brunswick.
You can't make this up.
No, you don't have to say anything, I'm just bringing up the point.
I'd like a copy, yes.
Okay, I'll send you another copy. I'll send you another copy. I know I had sent it to you guys a while back. I'll send you another
Send me
copy.
another copy, please.
Okay. That's not a problem. And I have one other question. The American Legion, I understand that.
Hold on one second.
Oh, sure.
Can you answer that for us?
First of all, I'm not familiar with it. It's the first time I've heard this. And I was not counsel back in June when you had this closed session. But if you have some information that you want to provide for me, you can forward it to my attention. That's
Okay,
fine.
no problem.
All right?
Yeah, that's no problem. I just have one other question, because we're talking about the Main Street property and the firehouse, and so the American Legion, I understand that there is negotiations to try and get them a 20-year lease on that property at the lake. And I also understand that the mayor is one of the people that are trying to negotiate this contract. If that's the case, it's a conflict.
Yeah.
The mayor's a member, the mayor has a vested interest in the American Legion, and quite frankly, the American Legion is a prime piece of real estate in Spotswood that we're leasing to the American Legion. If we're talking about building a firehouse, which is potentially what I think most of the town is saying, would be a good thing. If we're gonna build a firehouse there, well then let the American Legion move over to the firehouse and let us take that piece of property, make it into a community center or something that's gonna be beneficial to the town as opposed to the American Legion being there. I mean, 20 years is a long lease for us to be leasing a piece of property to the American Legion that we're not making any money off of. And if we're gonna do that, well then, you know what, let's do it for the community as opposed to doing it for the American Legion. They can certainly go somewhere else. I'm not opposed to the Legion being in town. I'm just opposed to it being on a prime piece of real estate that the town should be enjoying as opposed to just the few members that are there. And as far as going behind there, I know there was discussion that was brought up at the last meeting, and the mayor had said, oh, anybody can go behind the American Legion and they can sit down there and they do whatever they want. That is entirely not true, because I tested out that theory. It's not true.
Well,
there's a
just
surprise.
so you know, I'm a member of the American Legion too, and I already told them that we can't vote on it.
Okay.
Okay, I told them you can't vote on it, neither can I. It's already a conflict. So there won't be any votes from me or him.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Patricia Crosby. I actually live in Milltown, not Spotswood, on 35 Elm Place, but my daughter is a senior at Spotswood High School.
Can you talk a little closer to your mic?
I'm sorry, I have a very bad sinus
Put it
infection,
in the
and I'm short. Anyhow, so my daughter's a senior at Spotswood High School, and I have a concern about this intersection right out here, Rita Road, I believe it's called. I just call it the driveway of the high school, and Summerhill Road. So 2 weeks ago, I got the phone call that no parent wants to get, that your daughter's been in a very bad car accident at this intersection. She has early out, which a lot of seniors have. There's 168 seniors at Spotswood High School.